So, let's get into the time where me and SD went to Isha's passion party. You know me, I like to start from the beginning to how it led up, you know what I mean? So, my nigga Duke, like I said prior, moved to Florida, you know what I mean? Cause, all the stress, the drama, he wanted something better in life. But at this particular time, this was his first time back in the city of Dallas since he moved to Florida. So he called me, told me to pull up on him at the Royal Lee Mall. You know what I mean? So I pulled up to Royal Lee Mall. When I pulled up, I seen Duke down on one knee with his eyes closed praying. You know what I mean? So I pulled up, stopped the car. Then when he opened his eyes and stood up, that's when I honked my horn and he turned around. He automatically smiled, and I smiled because this is like the first time I seen my nigga since he left Dallas, and nah, man. So he walks over, get in the car, we shake hands. I'm like, what's up, nigga? He like, what up? So, as I'm driving, he's telling me how Florida been. I'm letting him know, all the shit that's been going down in, Dallas or wherever. And he would just tell me how Florida, was a good change for him, how all he gotta do now is just get up, jump in the pool, and relax, no more stress, no more drama. He ain't gotta worry about looking over his shoulder. Nah, man, I'm letting him know all the shit that's been going down with me and all that, and I was telling him how it's funny how he put me on to all the shit in Dallas, and this nigga leaves, we laughed about it. But as we driving, we coming up, we approach, and I see somebody that I think I knew that owed me money. This kid Donnie. Wasn't sure till we got close, and I'm like, oh shit, that is the kid Donnie. So I say, hold up, my nigga. I park the car, I hop out. I walk up to the kid, I'm like, yo, Donnie. He turns around, and Donnie acting like he's surprised to see me. So I'm asking him, like, yo, what's up with that? That work that I funded you, you know what I mean? What's up with that, that key I funded you, you know what I mean? On consignment, what's up? Like, you've been owing me this money for the longest. So this nigga Donnie goes into all these excuses about, why he had the money or why he couldn't contact me and all this shit. So I said, yo, you really, you think I'm playing? You ain't feeling me, huh? Like, you think I'm a clown or something? Like, he was like, nah, man. The kid Donnie like, nah, man, it ain't like that. No, then so the whole time he talking, he's not looking me in my eyes. He looking this way, that way. But that's how I knew he was lying. But as he's talking and looking everywhere but in my face, he ain't noticed I slipped my knife out of my pocket, out of my back pocket. So I said, yeah, I was like, nah, you ain't feeling me. You think I'm a sucker? He was like, nah. So that's when, I took my knife and just, started stabbing him in the shoulder. He started screaming out. I was like, yeah. I was like, you don't feel me, right? And then the nigga Donnie started screaming out. I feel you. So I kept stabbing, and I just keep stabbing him in his shoulder, because I don't want to kill a nigga, but I just want him to know it's not a fucking game. He can't play with my money. I keep stabbing him in the shoulder. He's screaming. Everybody that was around seeing this, because, we in the middle of it, the day, the dude hop out. Duke went up, he grabbed me. Duke like, yo, come on, we gotta go. He was like, they're gonna call the laws, man. We gotta go. So that's when, I took my knife out of Donnie's shoulder. I wiped it off on his jacket or whatever, and then me and Duke ran back to the car. We hop in the car, skate off. And so as I'm driving, this nigga Duke like, damn. He's like, damn, nigga. He said, I ain't been in motherfucking Dallas 24 hours, and already you got me in some shit. So, I laughed and shit, and I'm like, nah, this is nigga Donnie been owing me money for the longest, we talked about that for a little bit. So that's when Duke was like, yo, he said, drop me off. He gave me the address, he said, drop me off at the studio. He said, I gotta lay a couple tracks and do an interview, man. He was like, and after you drop me off, he was like, you go in the house and lay low for the rest of the day, man, cause, you know what I mean? Cause it was like in broad daylight. Like in a real, busy area, shopping area or whatever, so. Alright, so I pull up to the address, I drop him off. We shake hands, you know what I mean? He told me, yo, be safe, my nigga. I said, you too, my nigga. So he went in, I guess to go lay some tracks, do an interview. I head home and shit. Lay low for the rest of the day, you know what I mean? Waited for London to come home from work. So me and London, ate dinner, chill, and we was watching this show on TV called Transparent Talk with this chick named TT and her man or husband or whatever named Wolf. So we sitting there watching that, me and London, cuddling on the couch watching Transparent Talk. I'm strolling through my phone. London's mostly watching the show. I'm just listening, strolling through my phone. Next thing you know, my phone start ringing private. My fuck is this? I answer the phone, it's SD. I'm like, yo, what's up, nigga? Why you calling me private? What's up? He was like, yo, he's like, Tony, he was like, I'm locked up. I need you to bail me out. He was telling me, he was like, yeah, me and Jay got into it. You know what I mean? We got into some shit. He was like, I'll explain the rest, when you come get me or whatever. So I'm like, alright, my nigga, say no more. Hang out with SD. I'm like, yo, London, we gotta go pick up our SD locked up. I told her, like, him and Jay got into it, whatever. So it's, alright, cool. So, get dressed, whatever. Get in the car. Cause, he bailed me out that time. When I wound up living with him and Jade, so it's only right I bailed my nigga out, so me and London heading over, you know what I mean, to go pick up SD from the prison or whatever, so we driving, we pull up, and I have London sign for him, you know what I mean, cause she has a job, credentials, all that is correct, so she signed. For SD, we bail him out. So now, we driving SD home, he in the back seat, London's in the passenger, I'm driving, so he's telling me how Jay, been wilding out, they've been arguing and fighting lately. She was messing with this dude, and then, when he went over there to confront her, and the dude was there, he had his gun on him. They called the cops, and when the cops came, they arrested SD, I guess with trespassing, and I think making threats towards the guy, and, Jade, his bail was $100,000, we got him out. So me and London listening, we just shaking our head like, damn, so cool. So we pull up to where SD live. I'm like, yo, man, just hold your head, man. Just go in there and get you some sleep. Relax. He was like, yeah, man. So we shook hands. London tell him bye. We drop SD off. He go in the crib. So now me and London heading back to the crib, whatever. She showing me outfits that she wanna buy and shit. She showed me this one cat suit. And I'm like, yeah, that's the one. So she ordered that cat suit, she, on the phone. And the pastor, she ordering cat suits. I'm imagining her in the cat suits and shit. That got me, in the mood. So soon as we got to the crib, boom, me and London getting it in, you know what I mean? Kitchen, living room, all we, just going round after round, boom. Pass out sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night, go, take a piss. Get something to drink, how your mouth get dry. Middle of the night, get something to drink. Go lay back down, London's still knocked out asleep. So I just grab my phone, checking my phone. I see London and SD live going at it, and they just going at each other. So SD cursing at her, London cursing at him, and she's trying to make him jealous, so she's showing that she's in the passenger seat in the car with another dude, and you can't see the guy's face, you just see him from the neck down, and you see him putting his hands between Jay's legs and shit. So I'm just watching, holding the phone, shaking my head, and SD, you're like, I don't give a fuck about that shit, bitch. And, SD just cursing it out, putting, like, some of her business out there. She putting his business, they just going back and forth. I'm like, oh, man. So they did that for a while, until the live ended, then I just put the phone down, shook my head, went to sleep. Boom. Next day, get up. Of course, London goes to work. I go check SD, I'm like, so I'm checking this, I'm like, yo, what's up, my nigga? He's like, that even though she got him locked up, and he was like, he do love her, he miss her, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, I understand, but if it looked like she's about to move on, and she, got a nigga in the car with her, I was like, you can't sit around moping, nigga, you gotta, pick yourself up, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to, get him, back on his feet, like far as like, getting his mind off of Jade and shit. I get a text message. It's a flyer, with Isha's, face on it. And it said Passion Party, and I get a text from Sexy Trapper showing, with this flyer that said Passion Party. So I'm like, what the? So, so I text Sexy Trapper, I'm like, what's a Passion Party? And then, talking to SD still, I get up, my phone rings, it's Sexy Trap out, and I pick up. And then, I put on, not even put on speaker yet, I was told to. I'm like, yo, what up? She's like, what up? So she started to tell me what a passion party was. And I mean, she was like, that's where you go, and it has sex toys and, women might demonstrate, toys or whatever, that might be like, all kinds of stuff like, massages, cause they're gonna be selling oil. And she was like, Isha has a website where she sells sex toys, t-shirts, massage oils, all kinds of shit. And she was like that the last passion party was lit. She was like, it went down. She was like, she can't say, but she was like, it went down. And I'm like, what you mean that? You mean like people fucking? She was like, hey man, what happens at the passion party? Say that the passion party. But she's like, trust me, it was lit. She was like, knowing your freak ass, Tony, I know you like it. I bust out laughing. I said, hold on. So I put him on speaker. I put Sexy Trap on speaker. I said, yo, tell her on SD what a passion party is, cause he's been, depressed that him and Jay broke up. I'm trying to tell us that he needs to get out the house. I was like, maybe, I could bring him with me. She was like, yeah, you should bring SD with you. And then she was like, well, SD, that she broke down what the passion party was. So he was like, who's giving the party? He said, Isha. He said, oh, cause, SD and Isha dated, what I mean? A while back, a few years ago, they went on a few dates, whatever. So they know each other. So he was like, alright, he was like, he was like that, he gonna come with me to the passion party. So she said, yeah, make sure y'all come. She gave us the date, whatever. She gave us the date, and all that. So I pull up Isha's like, I see she got sex toys for sale, oil, t-shirts. So he was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna roll with you to the passion party. So I told him, cool. I told SD good, so we don't go to the passion party. I said, London's gonna be working that night. You know what I mean? You ain't got Jay with you. So I said, we in the clear, my nigga. You know what I mean? We can go have fun, probably get with a couple ladies, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Alright, cool. So, I think the passion party was probably like a week later or something like that. So it's coming up to the week of the passion party. Now, unknown to me, I know that SD, sent flowers and a card to Isha, you know what I mean? Cause he had her address cause they dated from before, so he sent flowers and card just to be nice and to congratulate her on her website and, the parties she was throwing, because she was like a real successful hostess when it comes to parties. Like, not only her passion parties, but she also hosted the Money Tires party, you know what I mean? We get into that. But so he wanted to just congratulate her on her success as far as like, hosting and, the website shit. So he sent flowers and a card the same day of us going to the passion party. He sent it earlier that day. So it's the day of the passion party. Of course, London goes to work. She don't know nothing about it because I'm trying to, creep and do my thing on the low, you know what I mean? Because, I love my girl, but I've been booed up with her for a minute, I want to have some fun on the side. Plus, SD, he's been depressed, so I'm trying to get his mind off of Jay, and into some new shit. So cool. So London goes to work. You know what I mean? Like I said, unknown to me, this nigga, SD sends the flowers and the card to Isha. Cool. So now I pick up SD, we head into the passion party. Alright, so we driving there. You know what I mean? And he's bumping, the Mo 3 shit. And then, and respectfully, it's this one song that Yella Beasley had, you know what I mean? And it's called I Know These Niggas Don't Follow Me. I was bumping that shit. That nigga SD looked at me like, oh, hell no, but that's my shit. So we going back and forth, playing Mo 3. I'm playing a couple Yella Beasley tracks, you know what I mean? I love Mo 3 too, but, Yella Beasley got some shit. So, we going back and forth debating on the music, driving to the passion party, cause Isha had this big ass cabin that she up in the hills, she had this big ass cabin where the party gonna be at, you know what I mean? So it's gonna be low key, discreet. So we driving up there. Now the whole time, the whole time we heading to the party, I later find out, of course after everything happened, Jay pops up at SD house. Of course SD ain't there cause he's with me. We go on to the passion party. So she shows up, and they've been doing this for years. They break up, get back together, break up, get back together. So I guess Jay was feeling bad and wanted to get back with SD. So when she, popped up at the house, SD wasn't there. Of course, she had the key. She goes in. He's not there. So she figured, okay, maybe he stepped out. She gonna wait for him. You know what I mean? So, so I guess she, must have, was waiting for a SD and, all that. Meanwhile, we go to the passion party. Whole time we don't know that, Jade is at the house and shit. So we arrive at the passion parties, cars everywhere, mad people there, few people outside smoking, drinking. So, we get out, me and SD, we greet everybody that's outside, we walk in. Shit is lit, so soon as we get in, they had somebody at the door, wanting to take the phones because they don't want no recording. And, because there's a lot of shit going down, so they said in order to keep, because they say you have a lot of married people here. People with wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends. And, but a lot of them are there to have fun without they, significant other. So they was like, yeah, we had to take the phones in order to keep, people, business low key. So, he did, so we both had to power off our phones. I powered off my phone. SD powered off his phone. We turned the phones in. We didn't want to, but we said, fuck it, we turned the phones in. Alright, so now, we walk into the party is lit. They had a table set up, mad sex toys for the ladies, you know what I mean? Massage oils, all kind of shit. They had t-shirts. And as we looking at the table, I noticed on one of the t-shirts, I see, Peaches, you know what I mean? The PI lady. So I said, oh, hell no. So at this point, Sexy Trapper walks up, gives me a hug, give SD a hug. I'm like, yo, I was like, what this chick doing on a t-shirt? She was like, oh yeah. She was like, hi, Freshalicious, Isha. They cool, you know what I'm saying? They cool, whatever. So, she modeled for her t-shirt line. I was like, she coming? She was like, she don't think so because she think Peaches couldn't get a babysitter. So I'm like, good, because I don't feel like dealing with that drama. So Sexy Trapper walking me and this D do everything, showing us, you see people get massages. You see the one dude with the leather straps on it, and he's like swinging these things like nunchucks, like these leather straps, and it's slapping up against a girl's ass. You seen that? And then what blew my mind is they had the legendary couple, Rock and Shay. Now, if you watch a lot of, porn or been to porn websites from back in the day, Rock and Shay are legends, you know what I mean? You look up Rock and Shay, R-O-C, and, and Shay, S-H-A-Y, Rock and Shay, they are legends. They had Rock and Shay in the middle of, the living room in a big-ass bed having sex, and they had this big glass thing, surrounding them, so that way people, how you go to the museum or the zoo, you got the big glass to keep you from touching, because if Rock and Shay, they only had sex with each other, you know what I mean? This husband and wife, they only had sex with each other. Shay still look good, dark-skinned, fat ass. They having sex in the middle of the living room, this big-ass bed with this glass around them. That was crazy. So you got Rock and Shay having sex in the middle of the living room. You got the guy doing the thing, slapping the shit on the girl's ass. You got other girls getting tied up with rope. Because some women are into that. They getting tied up. I mean, it was lit in there. Girls running around naked. Some in lingerie. It was lit. It was going down, my nigga. So, we seen Isha, we greeted Isha, we was like, yo, this party lit. She was like, yeah, you know what I mean? She was like, whatever happens here stays here, you can have fun on SD, They hugged each other, they ain't seen each other in a while. He congratulated her on everything. So, we went. They showed us, tie rooms so that way we could, drop our bags off and shit, get comfortable, change into some more comfortable clothes, like some sweats or something, or, me, I was on some player shit. I had my, suit pajamas, Versace shit like always. SD changed to his, sweatpants and shit, so we, now we looking around, enjoying the festivities and shit. So, meanwhile, which I later found out, afterwards, plus SD had cameras in the crib, Jay changes into lingerie and shit. He's waiting for SD, but never came, you know what I mean? She gets a ring at the doorbell. The guy comes and delivers the flowers in the car. She thinking it's for her, but it wasn't. And what happened was, SD had the old address from when him and Isha talked. So that's why the flowers in the car got returned back to the house. So she decided to get in the car and the flowers for her. Till she read the card and see what's for Isha. She like, what the fuck? So now she calling SD phone, but it's going to voicemail. Remember, they took our phones. So she see that the card's for Isha, so she, I guess she looked up Isha on Instagram, see that Isha's live, so she's looking at Isha live showing the party tomatoes lit. She ain't think nothing of it until she saw SD in the background, and then, she put the camera at SD, blew up the peace sign, he drinking. Then she see me, with SD, I thought the peace sign, salute, did the little salute thing. And she was just like, yeah, it's lit. And then that's when, Jade is fuming. She's mad as a motherfucker, like, what the fuck are they doing there? And, and then, Isha's like, well, we can't show everything. There's some, things going, going down that we can't show, and then she showed the table with the sex toys and, all that shit. So then she ends the live. So now Jade is like, what the fuck? So she calls up London. She's like, yo, she was like, do you know anything about a passion party? And she was like, no. She was like, well, why is Tony and SD at this passion party with Isha? And there's like, all kinds of sex or whatever going on. And London's like, what? And she was like, yeah. She was like, yo, she was like, where's this at? She was like, I don't know. So they talking about it. So meantime, me and SD still at the party. No, but this is what I later found out. Jay's like, hold on, I think I know how to get this address. And then she also told London about how this nigga sent flowers and a card to Isha, but it came back because it's an old address. And she like, what? And she was like, yeah, and also, she like, well, Tony didn't tell me nothing about a passion party. What are you doing there? So she's like, so they don't know the address because there's no address on the flyer. You know what I mean? But then Jay said, hold on, I think I know how to get the address. She said, I think 88 was supposed to host, the party, or she was like, I think her and, what's the name, Isha was cool at the time. She think they squashed the beat, so she calls 88 on three-way. She was like, yo, 88, do you know anything about a passion party? She was like, yeah, I was supposed to be there hosting and dancing, but me and Isha fell out because I still feel some kind of way about her kicking me during the, the cream fight that we talked about prior. So she was like, but I ain't going. She said, do you have the address? Because he was like, this is motherfucking SD sent flowers in a car to Isha, and the shit came back. And, plus, Tony's there, and London want to know where he at. She was like, yeah, I got the address. And then she gave them the address, and she was like, yeah, get the motherfuckers. She was like, niggas ain't shit. But she was like, yeah, I don't fuck with that bitch. That's why I'm not there. So she said, yeah, go do your thing. So they hang up. So now London and Jade agreed, to go to the passion party to run up on us. So Jay was like, yo, where you at? London was like, I'm at work. She's like, alright. She said, meet me. She said, I'm gonna come scoop you by your job, and we gonna drive up there. Boom. So that's that. So meanwhile, me and SD, we at the party having fun. You know what I mean? We watching, I'm watching Sexy Trapper demonstrate on the toys, how to give head to the toys and shit. Second massage oil. So, Isha had us put, oils on the girls. I'm putting oil on Sexy Trapper and shit. Cause me and Sexy Trapper messed around a few times and shit. So I put oil on her, you know what I mean? They made SD put oil on, certain girls and shit, trying to get him in the mood, even though he was still feeling kind of down because of Jade. So he's massaging the girl, I'm massaging her. So we chilling. So Sexy Trapper's sitting on my lap at this point, you know what I mean? And she must have been feeling kind of tipsy, because she's been drinking and shit, you know what I mean? So, she kissed me on my neck, and then, she's feeling some kind of way, because not only you got Rock and Shay having sex there, they had like 4 strippers. They had 2 females, 2 males. They dancing. They start getting it in front of everybody. So all that is turning sexy trapper on, you know. I mean, you got the strippers, you know, getting naked and having sex with each and doing sexual things with each other. You got Rock and Shay having sex. You got, you know, women doing things with toys. You know, some, you know, masturbate. One girl squirted crazy, like all the way to the end. We had high ceilings in the cabin. You know, all this shit was going on. People getting spankings, all that shit. All that was turning on. So, you know, she got up off my lap and grabbed me by the hand and told me, come on. So I'm walking behind. As soon as we started going up the stairs, everybody started looking like, oh shit, you know. So I just smiled. So boom, me and Sexy Trapper go upstairs. We get it in, boom, getting it in, boom, 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 knocking it down, boom, boom, ripping our clothes off, having sex, boom, boom, boom. Went like 2 rounds. We both got in the shower, come back downstairs. So, you know, party's still going on, right? So now, you know, I'm sitting back on the couch, Sexy Trapper sitting next to me, but she got her leg laying across my legs, you know what I mean? So she's sipping her drink with her leg across my legs. I'm sitting there. So Isha made SD demonstrate a sex position with a chick. So Isha's got the microphone. She was like, yeah, so have your man do this, you know, stretch this leg. So the whole time, SD is doing this sex position, you know what I mean, like demonstrating, you know, fully dressed, demonstrating with the girl who's fully dressed. No, we watching. Next thing you know, the door open. I'm like, what the fuck? Lo and behold, Jade walks in, London walks in, and Jade is like Jade come running. You remember the Ultimate Warrior from back in the day wrestling? It's like she come running in like that. And then you just see her with the flowers that she just smacks SD in the back of his head. Pow! It sounded like a fucking bat smacking a ball in a playoff game. Like that shit was so loud. Pow! She smacks him with the flowers. Boom! Like motherfucker, why would you send some bitch some flower? And then everybody like, what the fuss? Everybody looking around. Everything stopped. So that's when the girl he was doing this sexual position with, she jumps up. He's just backing up, you know. Sexy Trapper, you know, was stuck for a minute, and then, you know, she jumps up, and then, you know, London already walked in, so she already peeped that, you know, Sexy Trapper. So now, SD, you know, is getting slapped with the roses, but he's holding up his hands, trying to block. And she's like, why the fuck would you send this bitch, you know, flowers, you know, from the address or whatever. So she's smacking him with the flowers and shit. London walks up, she gets in Sexy Trapper face, and Sexy Trapper like, yo, little mama, you need to relax. She's like, whatever, you know, issues you have with your man, deal with your man, like, she, you know. So, you know, now I'm trying to calm London down, but now she's swinging on me, like, what the fuck, you know, swinging on me, like, why you ain't got no shirt on, and what the fuck you doing here? She's swinging on me. So I'm trying to calm her down, and, you know, so we arguing. So I take London outside, you know, Jade and SD, you know, we all 4 of us outside trying to keep the cool, but the people that was already outside smoking, drinking to get fresh air, they out there, they watching the drama. And then all the ladies that was there, they watching, you know, to see like what's up, like how they been. So we, you know, we arguing. I'm trying to calm, you know, what's the name down, and she's like, yo, I seen the girls, you know, sitting, you know, on your lap, or what the fuck is all this about? So we arguing. So in the midst of me and London arguing, I hear SD like, yo, blood. Tony, watch out, blood. So when I turned around, I see the Donnie nigga. Donnie, the dude I stabbed up prior, he got his arm in a sling. But I see he reached for his waist, he got a gun. Now he's at a distance. I can't get to motherfucking Donnie. You know what I mean? He's at a distance. I'm like, oh shit. So he pulls the gun. So the only thing I could do is grab London and turn and embrace for the shot. So once I grabbed London and turned for the shot, I heard bang, like a loud gunshot. It felt like 20 seconds, but it had to have been about maybe 5. So I opened my eyes. When I turned around, I see the kid Donnie holding the gun. His eyes roll in the back of his head. He drops, boom. Next thing you know, his Peaches standing there with smoke coming out the barrel of her gun. I'm like, oh shit. So then that's when Peaches lower her gun. And she looked at me in London. She was like, yeah, y'all might want to get out of here. Then she gets on the phone and she calls in that, you know, shots fired. So I'm like, oh shit. So that's when I grabbed London. We went to the car. SD, you know, ones with Jade to her call. Everybody started getting the fuck out of there. And like, yo, that was a crazy night and a crazy time, you know, of us going to Isha's passion party. That shit was crazy, man. And I thought I was in the clear until we got home, and then, you know, the drama between me and London didn't stop. But yeah, that was crazy, and I ain't gonna lie, you know, Peaches is crazy, but I was happy to see her that night, 'cause she definitely saved my life, my nigga.